is Gene Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 318, originally aired June 20th, 2018. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you get a chance for listening to this. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. Today, we're going to have a conversation about if the issue in front of you is a tappable issue and what is the best way to use tapping to be successful with it. Before we do that, just a couple of quick reminders. First of all, you can subscribe to the Tapping Q&A podcast so you do not miss an episode each time a new one comes out. If you go to tappingqandapodcast.com, we have instructions on how to subscribe to the podcast on Apple devices, on Android devices, on that Alexa device that you happen to have in your living room. All sorts of ways, making it super easy so you can take the podcast with you and listen to it wherever you are the instant a new episode comes out. We also have a free 10-part guide on how you can use tapping to eliminate self-sabotage. It's super easy to get. Just go to tappingqa.com, click on the big blue button. Over the course of the last 10 days or so, people have had a hard time subscribing. We've fixed that technical issue, so if you've tried to get the guide and haven't been able to get it, it is now available again, absolutely free of charge. Today, what I'd like to share with you is a really simple 6-step process that you can use when you are faced with a circumstance and you're trying to figure out how to tap for something and if you should be tapping for it. And kind of a little bit of background about how this came about. Late last week, I was having a conversation with one of my clients, and we were trying to assess the time to tap for something, if it was a tappable issue, and the best way to understand what to tap for. And in the course of the conversation, we came to the realization that one of the questions that I often ask myself when I'm trying to figure out if I should be tapping for my progress and the action I'm taking is if I am feeling disappointed. If I'm feeling disappointed with the rate of my progress, if I'm feeling disappointed with the way others are responding, if I'm feeling disappointed with the outcomes, then I'm going to bump into something that is probably a tappable issue. But the problem is I have disappointment and frustration laying over the top of that tappable issue, which makes it difficult to move forward. And so in order to figure out what needs to be tapped for, we need to understand why the disappointment exists. And it's really interesting when we are making progress and we are having transformation, how quickly we forget about the progress and transformation we're actually experiencing as we move forward. This is such a common occurrence that when a new client decides to work with me for a number of months, before we begin, I will say, now this probably isn't going to happen to you, but it has been known to happen lots of times. Somewhere between session 4 and session 6, my clients regularly say, Gene, I really enjoy working with you. You're really insightful. But I don't actually think we're making any progress, and I don't know if I want to continue. Now, when this happens, what I do is I bring out the notes that we took at the beginning of the work we were doing, and I say, well, this is where you started, and this is where you are today. And there's a couple of reasons why we don't notice that progress. There's a couple of reasons why I need to pre-frame this before we even start, because it happens so often with my clients. And the reason is our new normal very quickly becomes our normal, and we don't recognize the progress we're making. So, really simple example. You have a pain in your knee, we do some tapping for it, and that pain goes from a 7 to a 4, and you're absolutely amazed that we've almost reduced half of the pain with some tapping. And you wake up tomorrow morning and the pain is a 4 and you're still super excited. And you wake up the third day and the pain is a 4 and you're super excited. And the fourth day you wake up and you're in pain and you're frustrated because you're in pain. Now that pain is still only at a 4, but because of the amount of time that has passed, you no longer remember the pain you started with. You only notice the discomfort and what is getting in the way. Therefore, it's easy not to recognize what happens. Another way of looking at this, and this is an analogy that I've been using quite a lot in the last couple of weeks with my clients. When we are making transformation, not about something like physical pain, but we're reducing a fear that is allowing us to step out in the world and do things we haven't done before. And it is if we are standing on a piece of land and we can walk anywhere we want on the land, but we can't step into the water. And the water represents that fear. Like there's some area that I'm comfortable with, but there's a bunch of area that I'm not. And so as we tap and we tap and we tap and we work on the issue, the water recedes. And all of a sudden, there is more space for us to do that thing that we were afraid of. But oftentimes what happens is we keep walking up to the edge of the water to experience something that is further away than where we are. And so if we are only looking down at our feet, we notice that the water is 6 inches away from our toes. And we do more and more tapping and more land expands, but we walk forward and the water is only 6 inches from our toes. And we don't look behind us to recognize all of the progress we've made. We only recognize the spaces that we still can't. And therefore we feel disappointed and frustrated. So to put this in practical terms, oftentimes when I'm working with clients who have to speak in public for the first time for business, are really nervous to speak up. And we do tapping, and all of a sudden, at work, they can stand in front of 10 people and give a presentation, and that feels comfortable. But they do such a good job, all of a sudden they're asked to give the presentation to the whole department, and now they have to be in front of 35 people. And that is scary again. So we'll tap, and all of a sudden 35 people are comfortable. But if they were asked to speak in front of 100 people, that would be really scary. So if you asked that person to speak in front of 100 people and they were really scared, it would be easy for them to say, that tapping thing doesn't work because I still have that fear of speaking in public. But what happened was, as we tapped, we created enough space on the land for them to speak in front of 10 people and for them to speak in front of 35 people. So there was more venues, there was more space for them to do the thing that they wanted to do. But if we are only noticing the space in front of us, and we're only noticing the thing that we don't feel comfortable doing, then it's really easy to dismiss the progress we've made, and it's really easy not to want to tap for something because we feel as if tapping has failed because we still have this problem. So, whenever we bump into this, I have a really simple 6-step process to be able to work your way through this, to figure out what to tap for and how to tap. So, step number 1, when you are feeling disappointed by your progress or your outcome, the first thing you do is you compare the progress that you have with your current expectations to kind of see what the difference is between what you are getting and what you want. And the second thing to do is to compare your current experience to your past experience. So in doing this, we're getting a chance to do 2 things. 1, we're getting a chance to see ourselves in relationship to what we want. And 2, we're getting a chance to see ourselves in relationship to how far we have come. And by doing these 2 things, it takes what we are worried about or what we're frustrated about, and it puts it into context so we have a better understanding of what is going on. And in many cases, simply taking this first step is going to take some of the sting out of the disappointment. And as you'll see, just because the disappointment goes away doesn't mean that we're not going to tap, but it creates some space. So, number 1, check in with expectations and where we've been in the past to see where you actually are. Step 2 is to do a little tapping. And the tapping we do in step 2 is to acknowledge the fact that the disappointment and frustration that we are feeling is showing up simply because we want better. And so in this situation, the tapping I'm doing is, right now I feel frustrated. because I want to have more than I have right now. And even though this disappointment and frustration doesn't feel very good, I appreciate the fact that there's a part of me that is striving for better and wants more. And so the feelings of frustration that I'm experiencing right now is simply my system trying to point out that I want better and I'm worthy of better. I appreciate the fact it has done its job. Now, simply going through and acknowledging this again will take some of the edge off of the disappointment and frustration because it's now been heard clearly. It's not just this emotion that's nagging at us, but we've turned to the emotion and I say, emotion, I see you and I understand why you're showing up and I appreciate the fact that you're showing up because this is what you're motivated by. In past podcasts, you've heard me say this before, fully articulated emotions are short-lived. They're just trying to convey information. And so by thinking in this way, what you're going to do, and tapping in this way, what you're going to do is you're going to allow the emotion to be heard, which is going to allow it to recede a little bit. The third thing that you do is, again, a little more tapping. But in this case, what we're going to do is we are going to name and acknowledge the fact that we haven't reached our goal yet. And it's okay to do this. Basically, when we're going through this process, we're simply saying, I know I want better. And at the moment, I don't have that. And when I don't have what I want or what I need, that doesn't feel good because it feels as if I'm not having the full, rich experience that I want. And so therefore, I'm going to keep working towards having this goal achieved. And again, for me, when I state that I'm going to keep doing work on this, the disappointment recedes a little bit more because I'm now stating my own agency that I'm going to keep working towards this thing. Step 4, what we're going to do is we're going to tap a little bit on acknowledging the progress we've made. And we can see this because back in step 1, we compared where we are to where we were. And so it just looks something like, even though I haven't achieved my goal, I realize that I am moving forward. I am making progress. I'm taking actions. I'm clearing limiting beliefs. I'm clearing blocks. I'm getting through obstacles and over hurdles. And this is allowing me to keep moving forward. Even though I'm not all the way, I can acknowledge my effort and I can acknowledge the fact that I am moving forward. Now that we've done this tapping, the 5th step we're going to do is we're going to retune back into the frustration and disappointment, and we're going to retune into what we are currently experiencing. Now, in doing this, one of two things is going to happen. Either one, the disappointment and frustration is going to have receded enough, might not have gone away, but has receded enough for us to see what the real tappable issue is. Us feeling like we're not worthy of success, us feeling like we don't have opportunities, us feeling like it's taking too long. Whatever it is, we're going to uncover that. Or the second thing that's going to happen is we're going to realize that the frustration and disappointment is just that. And once we've tapped for the frustration and disappointment and we can see things clearly, we can appreciate your progress, then we can keep moving forward because the emotion is gone. If, after the frustration and disappointment has receded, there are other issues that are there, then it is the perfect time to tap for those things because we can now see them more clearly, which is going to make it easier for us to clear them. Or, 2, because the disappointment and frustration is gone, we're now in a situation that we can move forward and take the action that we want. So, when we feel that sense of disappointment, frustration, wondering why we're not moving forward, 1, check in with our experience in comparison to our expectations and where we once were. 2, tap to acknowledge the fact that this frustration means that there's a part of us that wants better, and that is good. Step 3, tap for the idea that you aren't where you want to be and that you still want better. Step 4, tap in appreciation for the progress you've made. Step 5, tune back into the situation. Step 6, if there's any emotion left about disappointment, frustration, or whatever issue is there, you then tap for that. So if you think about it in this systematic way, it's going to create space that's going to make it easier for you to keep taking action. And it doesn't take a great deal of time. Even though it took about 10 minutes for me to explain this, you could zip through those steps in under 2 minutes. And the next thing you know, you've either uncovered an issue that you can address or you are taking action. So I would love for you to try this out and give me some feedback and let me know how it worked for you. I can always be reached at Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com, or just click on that contact link on the website. If you've happened to download the Tapping Q&A app, if you click on the contact button, you can leave me a voicemail or send me an email from right inside of the app. I love hearing from you. If you know someone in your life who could use this little process, please be our ambassador. Pass it along. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover or a guest you'd like us to interview in the future, I can always be reached again at Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com. Go to tappingqapodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast, check out our archive. We have over 375 episodes, including full episodes, bonus episodes, two-part episodes, free resources that will make your life better and will make it easier for you to navigate your day and make good, consistent action. Take advantage of that resource. It's just sitting there for you, free of charge. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Monterastelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Monterastelli, Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Monterastelli or Tapping Q&A.